Namaste and pranam to everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our second recorded talk. This is Arjun from the Babajimataji Center on Earth. After the first talk and the recorded talk, I shared the recordings with few people, and based on their feedback, we should decide the content of the second talk. And the feedback from the various listeners was very wide, was very varied. So some wanted to meet the master, some requested miracles to happen, and some wondered why they couldn't meet the masters. And there were some who were trying hard to decode the mantra given by the master. Mantra that I am my own destination, that I am always with my perfected state or my inner destination. I am my own destination is perhaps the grand finale of your search. There is nothing beyond it. Because once you realize this state, there is contentment. There is an awareness which especially dawns on you or is awakened within you, or you just rediscover it again, that you don't belong to this place, that you belong to some other place, some other plane, and that you were always found. There was nothing to find. You were always found. You never left your place. You never left your destination. And because you never left your destination, there was no start and there was no journey. So that is what is my sentiment. But doesn't mean that others also share the same sentiment or awareness. And so, with all these questions in mind as to why it happens only to the few, and so simple, so I would call it it's a default setting. It is like this. This is not you don't have to invent or reinvent or improvise. It is like that. It's a default setting, and there is nothing you can do about it. The sky is blue. The moon is round. Same is the case with our realized state. It is like this, and it has always been like this. I went with all these questions as to why this difference, so much difference. Although we have the same abilities, the same state, same level of awareness, why such a big difference in the level of contentment, inner, and the perception of who one is? So with all these questions, I went to the Mahaguru, mahavatarbabaji, and when I reached his place, his ashram, normally his ashram is deserted. You have hardly few beings there. The atmosphere is very, very quiet, very serene. It's a paradise for someone who wants to be on retreat, because the energy levels are such that the moment you reach there, you're quiet, and quiet from your core. There is no effort. You don't have to make an effort to be quiet. By nature, you just it's like you plugged into your nature. So this time I went. When I reached at the ashram, when I reached at the door gates of the ashram of Babaji, I was surprised. There were a lot of people. There was a big gathering going on. A large part of the gathering was outdoor, and there was a building next to it, which I had never seen, which I think was constructed only for the event. And mantras were playing in the ether. You don't know where it came from, but it was playing. There were prayers. And on the left hand side, on a raised platform of rocks, sat Babaji motionless, dressed in a festive manner. I tried to enter the ashram. I saw the master high up sitting on the rock, and I saw him very terribly busy, and I didn't want to interrupt him or the proceedings. And I looked him from far. He looked at me. I saluted him in the Indian fashion, and he just nodded his head. I saw him, he saw me, and I left. Another thing is, on the plane we come from, there is no need to talk. Most of the communication happens in silence and at the level of mind, at the level of thought. It is very rarely that I have observed Babaji speaking from his mouth. Most of the time it's through thoughts, or he uses the mouth of someone else close to him or your own. But very rarely does he speak verbally. So Babaji told me to go to Mataji, or Ma, as I call her. And of course she knew that I was coming there to meet her, and what all was going in my mind, all those questions about the listeners. And so I entered her place. If Babaji likes to live, although he lives in the monastery, he likes to live in the open. Mataji has her own structures, her own palaces, and she likes to live indoor. She prefers to live indoor. And so I reached her at her palace. There was a lady helper who didn't look oriental, if that's the right word. And she took me to her to meet Mataji, to Ma. And the first thing, when I came close to Ma, she was sitting on a bench. And the first thing, when I met her, she asked me, Arjun, tell me about the most painful experience you ever had. And this was some sort of a shock for me. I thought to myself, I had come to seek her advice, and she was not going to ask me anything. How are you? Or as was the normal routine whenever I met her. But she asked me first this question, Arjun, tell me your most painful experience on earth. So I recounted to her. I had no choice but to answer her. So instantly I closed my eyes and I tried to identify which was my most painful experience on earth. And I found one, which was not only most painful and difficult period for me, professionally and personally. So I recounted to her, and I said to her, Ma, you have already asked me this question twice, and I have twice recounted you the whole story. But if you want me to recount it again, I would do it. And she smiled, and I recounted the whole episode. The more I recounted her, the more I had a feeling that the experience was no longer mine. And I was going closer and closer to her until I sat on the bench where she was sitting, and I moved closer and closer to her till I touched her hands with love and affection, like a son or a daughter touches his or her mother's hands, recounting the whole painful experience on earth. So the moment I touched her palms, I touched my hands, her form changed into light, and that light changed into many forms, and came a voice. And she said, "Don't forget, my child, that you are tourist. That you are tourist to the world of experiencing. You came to this as tourist for experiencing, and from tourist you became traveler, and from traveler you were seeking settlement." So that's the progression, she said, that we are tourist to earth. Tourist of what? Of experiencing. When I said experiencing, I mean experiencing everything. Experiencing is memory. Experiencing is impressions. Experiencing is the I. Who is the experiencer? I is the experiencer. And experiencing what? Experiencing everything. Like, for example, if you live on earth, let's say, we put it the other way around, which is much more easier for humans to understand. If you live on earth and you have to go travel on holiday because things are a pattern, and the pattern of experience is limited on earth. To experience something else, you go to some other planet, but you're going for a short while in the starting. That is the deal. You're going for a short while. Some go for one lifetime, some for 2, some for 3, some for 10, some for 12. But it's limited. It's a holiday. To experience something which you cannot experience in your own plane because of laws and regulations and orders. And these orders cannot be changed, They are there. What happens on earth happens on earth. The same exact thing cannot happen on any other plane. We came as tourists for a short while, got into the world experiencing on earth. Not only earth, there are other planes as well. And we started experiencing the senses, the mind, the manifestations of the senses, food, sex, arts, music, power, money, order. Someone is how it feels to be spiritually high, how it feels to be rich, and others, when others are poor.